want you to try to fit in. I don't want you to be a part of the environment. I want you to set the environment. So give yourself that opportunity to be a thermostat. You are now listening to the Conscious Creative Corner, the intersection of unapologetic lifestyle and creativity. Get ready to be inspired and dive into uncensored truths with tackling business and mental space with other transparent influencers and entrepreneurs. Let our conscious conversation normalize the chaos you may call life. Let's get consciously creative. Welcome back, everyone. I am Sia E, your host. Today's topic is on zoning in on your creativity. So a lot of you guys might be trying to figure out where it is that you fall on the spectrum of being creative. And I'm here to tell you that all of you have an innate, and I really mean innate, like you were born with the ability to be creative. You just have to figure out how to tap into that. So I want to talk to you about doing so today. We're going to talk about 5 key things or 5 key pillars that you can try to enforce in your daily routines in order to really tap into your creativity. Now, I'm not talking about just drawing a circle and some lines and calling it trees every day or, making V's for birds. I mean, really tapping into that place in your brain that says, hey, I want to do something different. I want to be known for creating something that hasn't been there before, or at least modifying it. Let's kind of dive right in. The very first pillar that you have to do when you're trying to zone in on your creativity is forgetting what you know. And I really mean forgetting what you know. I want you to try to look at it from a child's point of view or perspective. Now, if you've ever been around a child, you'll see that they have no issue with being creative, right? Sometimes they'll find a rock and make it a phone, or they'll play pretend and not have any intention on pleasing anyone else but themselves, simply because they're working in their creative flow. They play pretend all the time. And when you're trying to tap into your creativity, maybe it's time for you to try to play pretend. Maybe pretend that a computer is a dog. Doing these little exercises that let you forget about what you know so that you're not thinking with your logic brain, but instead thinking on the side that promotes creativity. Now, you might be thinking like, okay, this is so silly, Sia. Why would I do this? I'm telling you to do this because as adults, we are logical thinkers, right? Most of us, at least. And we want to do things that make sense. But when you're thinking about creativity, everything doesn't have to make sense. Let's think about 300 years ago. And one day some dude was probably sitting down thinking like, wouldn't it be great if I was able to call my friend from my phone? Okay, guys, maybe not 300 years ago. Let's think 100 years ago, okay? And some other dude was just like, yeah, but that's crazy, right? And look at it today. We have FaceTime. We can talk to each other from our phones. We can talk to each other from our laptops. And that probably didn't make sense 100 years ago, but it makes sense now. And that's all because someone took the standpoint of looking at it from a different perspective and forgetting what they know. This kind of leads me to my next pillar, which is being a thermostat and not a thermometer. I talk about this with my clients all the time, my therapeutic clients, when we are doing things that relate to emotion. But in this sense, when I say be a thermostat and not a thermometer, I want you to look at being different as okay? So I want you to be willing to set your own standards rather than relying on the environment to give you a read. When you think about a thermostat, you are thinking about how you want to set your temperature, how you want to set the environment. You're not getting a read from the environment like a thermometer, right? So the thermometer, you stick it in someone's mouth, or you have a room barometer or what have you, and it kind of gives you a read of the room or the environment. Versus a thermostat, let's say, you want it to be 80 degrees, you set it to 80 degrees. That's how I want you to think about being creative. I don't want you to try to fit in. I don't want you to be a part of the environment. I want you to set the environment. So give yourself that opportunity to be a thermostat. Number 3, the pillar number 3, you need to set out time to be in creative flow. So I have a friend that I talk to every day. And she is like, if you're listening, girl, hey, you know who you are. But she is amazing at keeping me in the creative flow. She really helps me to understand why it's important to set that time out to allow ideas to come in, right? Have creative flow sessions. There isn't a day that goes by where I'm not taking time out to really allow my mind to run with any idea that comes up, because I trust my mind's process. If I'm not trusting my mind's process, there I go again, thinking from logical mind or my logical brain, and that's not what I want to do. I always bring this back to thinking about fixed and growth mindset. Again, if you guys have not read that article, I want you to go hop on over to the blog and check that out. But one of the fun lessons that I used to teach my students when I was working in the colleges is this concept of fixed and growth mindset. In simple terms, I want you to think of your mind as a land of snow. Okay, think about a blanket of snow that just fell, and you're across the street, you're trying to get across to like your car that's parked across the street, and you're thinking like, whoa, this is impossible. There's no way for me to get to the other side. Okay. When you're thinking in that mindset, you're thinking from a fixed mindset, because in your mind, there's no possible way. Everything is fixed as it is. That car is across the street. How in the world you're going to get there? Versus growth mindset says the opposite. It says, hey, I'm going to defy what I see, and I'm going to make a way, right? So think of that growth mindset as a plower, and the more you plow your way to that clear path, the clearer the path is for you to walk to your car. So the more you practice the craft that you're trying to hone in on, the more precise your creativity or your craft will be, right? So fixed mindset says, no, you're already endowed with all the things you know. There's no way you can be a new musician. Versus growth mindset says, hey, I'm going to take 10 minutes out of my day every day to practice the guitar or something like that. Fun fact, that's how I learned how to play the guitar, guys. Yes, I play the guitar. I don't think many people know that, but there you have it. I stepped out of my fixed mindset and got into growth mindset. Now, I will say this, I'm not like the best guitar player. I did kind of fall out of my creative flow with that, but it's kind of like if I pick it up again and take that 10 minutes, it'll come right back to me. The next pillar is being inquisitive. When you're trying to find your zone of creativity, you have to ask questions, right? Because this is novel to you. It's not something that you've grown up doing, or it might be, but if this is a new era for you, you have to figure out how to accomplish the steps that you need in order to get to your goal, right? Most creative people have a lot of questions to ask. I consider myself a creative at heart, and I ask a bunch of questions simply because I'm not afraid of asking. If you're afraid of asking, how will you land on new territory? I always tell people this: find people that inspire you, or someone that's at the place you want to be or want to surpass. Always surpass. Don't settle for where they're at. And ask questions. Ask them, what it was like for them. I'm not going to say ask them how to do certain things, right? Because I always encourage people to find their own creative process. But you can always ask them about their inspiration behind why they do what they do. Because this is going to help you to tap into certain areas of your brain that you might not have been able to activate before because you weren't asking the right questions. The final thing when you're trying to zone into your zone of creativity is surrounding yourself in creativity. Become aware of those local events that may be occurring in your town, your city, or like nearby state. Maybe you have some musicians playing. Maybe you have a craft show coming up. Whatever it is that you think that you might believe your zone of expertise is living in, I think you should take that opportunity and dive into it. Go to some museums. Go to some open mics. I went to an open mic when I think it was my 18th birthday. And that's when I was just like, hey, I honestly love open mic night. I never thought I would have, but I was able to surround myself around some musicians and other people. And I was just like, hey, this is kind of cool. And that was one of the things that did foster my intentions on becoming, I didn't want to become a guitar player, but I wanted to become more musically inclined outside of dancing. And I would have never been able to do that if my friend wasn't like, hey, we're going to open night mic for your birthday. So I encourage all of you to surround yourself in creativity. If you are serious about zoning in on your creative mind or getting into your creative space, you need to ensure that you are having inspiration around you. I say that to say, make sure you're following at least some of these pillars. If not, if you feel like you can't do any of these, the major takeaway for me that I think is going to be great for you guys is just becoming a thermostat all the time. Do not adjust to the environment. Instead, create that environment. Don't be thermometers, guys. Be thermostats. Hey creatives, thanks for listening to the Conscious Creative Corner. If you like the show, be sure to rate, subscribe, and review on Apple Podcasts. It helps other creatives find ways to listen to our uncensored truths. Be sure to check me out on Instagram to let me know how you enjoyed the show. You can find me at Nearly Sia or Achieve Her Perfection. And if you're a struggling creative that's trying to find their creative niche, don't forget that you can sign up for my creative content business tips in the show notes, or you can visit achieveherperfection.com. I'll talk to you guys soon.